All right, at this time, I'd like to call the common council to the Plattsburgh Infrastructure Committee to order at 5:05 p.m. First order of business is the approval of the August 7th, 2023 Infrastructure Committee minutes. I will note that there were no minutes for the September 5th, 2023 Infrastructure Committee. We did not have a quorum at the time. It was an informal meeting with the department heads and the councilors that were here. But I will take that motion. Counter 4 seconds. I can second this. I will second it. All in favor? Great, gotcha. We'll now take an infrastructure report from Public Works.
Good evening. We'll do this really quick for you guys. Operationally, we have the last phase of skating, which will start Wednesday, the AM. We'll be paving at night, Derby Street. I have a little piece of rain and we're clean up, and that would be it for the year. His quick numbers. The road resurfacing program for the year did very well. The yield on the streets was good, and also the actual price was very stable this year. Last year, we had a bunch of escalations for whatever reason, I don't know. This year, gas is high and fuel is high, asphalt is not business. So then good for us. We're looking at the first series of streets. I want to say they close to $200,000 to do it. That's how well we did. So with this last two down, and then the remainder will be one street, which actually. Other activities, parks, beach. Beaches have been closed. I say closed to season. The building is closed to season. We're going to pick up and winterization of the facility. Routine fall maintenance throughout the city. Municipal spigots throughout the city. We shut those off. Winterize that out. General maintenance work is ongoing. You probably noticed we're out at US Ave last week and week before. We did a series of manhole catch basin repairs where they started to fail. Did that work and heavy packets out there. Got those together. We were 12 structures we rebuilt. The only thing we have left is we did a scheduled shutdown to do about placement. We still have one more that we're expecting to do about black. So we'll get that done this week. Thursday, and we'll go after it. Street sweeping and catch basin cleaning is not going to be and work in a couple areas. Update, we will be doing slip lining. The camera and cleaning will start on October 10th, which is next Tuesday. Once that is complete, they that assessment and determine what yours has started with something I need to the city and fall project years from now. Depending on the weather it is and what activities are that a series of stuff in the city. The capital projects, we're final closeout portion of the wildland job of the base. And the only thing we have left is to dispose of the specified everything else that's completed. And then the last item on each site, if I have any questions, would be an update on our issue. If there are any questions about topics that have been so far or any other questions.
How did the drains hold up? We had a couple of big rainstorms. Were there a lot of 12 areas or is it no more than
We had a handful, because we didn't do the full basin cleaning program this year, we had a handful of trouble spots and we did have to go back through and do some jetting and cleaning. Hopefully next season we'll be able to get out the comprehensive plan done, but so far so good. We'll have fall stuff with the leaves. We were talking about it prior to the meeting. When they come off, we have to stay ahead of it, get clean the basins, little sweepers, that's usually the biggest so far so good. Some great functioning adequately. Thanks. Questions?
Okay.
I'm gonna hand over to Andrew, they'll give you the latest on Market Street. So Market Street, wood is still going extremely well. We are 100% out of the ground now. All utilities have been completed, water, sanitary, and storm. Full depth reclamation has been completed on the entire project. So we've torn all the old sidewalk and roadway out. They are running sidewalk currently. Most of the underground electric has been put in place. They should start standing up light poles either tomorrow or Wednesday. So we'll start seeing those go up on Court Street. They will continue with sidewalk from now until probably the 24th or 25th this month. Concrete crews are scheduled to be on site the entire duration of the rest of the project. They come in next week for 3 days, in which they will lay the rest of the curb out on the entire job. Curb will be complete after that. Following that, they'll fine grade the road, and then they'll come in, I believe, starting October 18th. They'll put the base and binder in for the rest of the job, and then as soon as they've done that, they'll come back and do the top course asphalt. Striking is scheduled to be done on the 26th. And the tree plantings are going to occur on the 11th. So we are moving right along with the final stages of the project. Anybody have any questions? Trees are getting planted on the 11th. On the 11th.
Just for
Just for clarification, October 11th is when trees are being planted.
So when will it be completed?
So paving should be completed, let's see, the 18th, 3 days. So I believe the 24th will be the final day of paving, weather permitting. Because the stripers come in immediately after that to start line striping for the ribbon cutting on the 28th.
Who's doing the striping for us?
That's straight line. Straight line is the one that we actually hired to do our regular city street striping. They're one of 2 companies in New York State that do epoxy paint. Accent Striping is the other one, and they won't even fit on jobs for some reason. They get a lot of DOT work, so they stay pretty busy with the DOT work. So really, Straight Line is one of the only companies that does the epoxy paint. So we're kind of at their whim, but we have contacted them and been reassured that they are here to make sure that this project is completed. So, same with the quarries for asphalt and concrete.
Perfect.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks, sir. 3.1 draft resolution authorizing budget adjustment water fund CD and proposal water filtration plant. Councilor Talon, second by Councilor Moore. Discussion. Yep.
All right. So, under the stipulated agreement we talked about a couple months ago, there are some items that need engineering services to complete, and the next resolution is actually the proposal to provide those services. We need a budget adjustment in order to do those. A lot of this kind of work was done in the capital projects in the past, but we're moving towards doing that in operating budget. So this budget adjustment is to have the fund to do that, so we can hopefully authorize the next item on the agenda.
Any further discussion? All in favor, moving this item, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. 3.2 draft resolution authorizing CD and consent proposal water filtration plant operations support amendment number 1. Motion. Councilor Talon, second by Councilor Moore. Discussion.
Yeah, it was just a question, I wanted to know what the number, it looks like up to 400 and 440 something, I think it was.
I think that's for the architectural service. That's later on in the agenda.
Oh, so this, which one was
This one should be the.
Oh, you're talking about the water plant.
Yeah,
Let me just
It's, there's a funding change to the proposal, and then this is the actual, the first one was the funding adjustment, this one is the actual adoption of that one.
Okay, so they're still on the line for it.
Correct.
Okay. I do not have any questions.
But this one, you say do not.
No, I don't know.
Jennifer,
No, forget.
Mike,
Nothing.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Sorry, waiting for somebody to say this. Draft resolution on budget adjustment, water chemical water filtration plant. Counselor Talon, second Counselor Morris, said.
I think no, chemical spots, going up crazy, so this is a budget adjustment to provide for the price increase for the PCA set to use in the water treatment facility.
Yeah, I was just wondering, was they starting to level off yet, or are they still? They're still.
We're gonna find out, this one, hopefully it's leveled off. Sometime in the next 6 months, we'll be putting the solar authority back out to bid. That's over a 3-year period, we've seen. It's like at least tripled, not quadrupled the price, hopefully that's leveled off. Can hardly get the open prices, so the price will be, I think, not so good for 3 months. So,
Still on stable.
yeah.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Roll call, or sorry, all in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Draft resolution authorize City of Smith, water recovery, facility water plant integration project, architectural final design engineering services amendment 1, proposal motion. Counselor Johnson, and Counselor Morris, said. You have some questions on this?
Yes, I do. It seemed like it jumped up quite a bit, the upper limit, I know this isn't a hard and fast thing, but it does seem like it jumped quite a bit.
Definitely did. So just give you a little bit of background. 4 years ago or so, we received a WEIR grant and financing award. Financing 0% for 30 years. There were 3 main components to that grant award. One was odor control upgrades, one was disinfection and system upgrades, and the third was the architectural, structural, and facade enhancements. We've pretty much completed the disinfection and the odor control and dewatering upgrades. This is the final component of work that needs to be completed in order to satisfy those grant requirements. So this is the design, final design of the facade and architectural and some of the drainage issues, so solving the drainage problems that are on site. So this should hopefully have us ready to go out to bid late winter, so we get bids in and hit the ground on in the springtime.
So is this funded partly or entirely by grants? I mean, I know it's a little more.
Yeah, so- All right, so the answer is yes, and this work is probably going to be close to 50%, between I think 40 to 50% grant funded, with the remainder being 0% loan for 30 years. The overall package was 25% grant, 75% hardship financing, but the way they reimburse, they only reimburse you for half the grant money up front. Then they start reimbursing you with the 0% financing. So we've received half the grant, which is actually, when you run the math, smaller percentage than 25%. So it ends up being between 40 and 50% grant fund, basically traded to this work. And the rest is this 30 years, 0% interest, which is about as free as you can get without being totally free.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions?
Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried. Any new business? For this committee? Seeing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Councilman Down, second. Captain, we're all in favor.
Aye.
Thank you. We're now adjourned. Moving on to the second portion of our program tonight. We have the budget discussion. That's handing out, water, sewer, and DW. Yes, and we'll go through, each, department as we have, and we'll discuss, or we'll have department heads come and discuss, their items or their budget. Opportunity to ask questions, clarifications, justifications, rationale. And then anything that's noted, we'll come back and, make some adjustments to the mayor's budget where appropriate, where we can. Please.
Okay, we'll kick it off with, street administration and the general fund, typically the general fund stuff is what people are most concerned about. Regular payroll, up this year. The primary reason is, contractual raises. For this portion of it, and the section of mayor and I played around with potentially these other typers in house, but we decided to pull that out. So right now, we're looking at there is a neighborhood rate increase coming out, we're expecting that. Other items that you go down the list, I want to point out, and this will be the same for all the administration items, so street administration, water administration, and sewer administration. We'll start out with,
Sorry. The Counselor Bond. Street, water and sewer. You'll see on, street admin. It's coming in a page here. Sorry.
okay,
So my point, Counselor Bond, before I try to explain this a little bit further, and Mike and John can also help explain this. Because our Department of Public Works performs work focused on water distribution and sewer maintenance. There are portions of the Department of Public Works budget that split over those three funds: general fund, water, and sewer. So as you go through this, some of these funds like street admin, there's a portion of this payroll that's in the general fund, which is what you're looking at here. And then when you go to the water, you'll see there's water admin. That's a portion of the Department of Public Works payroll that's paid out of water. And sewer admin, that's a portion of the Department of Public Works payroll paid out of sewer fund. So essentially, these three funds combined make up the payroll, the combined payroll for the Department of Public Works. So you'll only see a third. So, like for example, you look at street admin or street administration, or street admin, and you say, well, that's a very low number for payroll. But you also consider that this is also split in multiple different funds, so it could be double this, that could be a third of that amount for the entire payroll for that staff.
and the one other thing, the administrative lines are typically my wage, assistant superintendent, engineering technician, clericals, and all mechanics are there. I think the auto mechanics can take them back out, but that payroll you see there is strictly administrative. It's not the actual field work. It's the option. So again, like the mayor said, some of these numbers are small, like I said, overtime payroll, relatively small in the administration part, but the line I wanted to talk about, before I open up the questions is, gas, electric, water, sewer, telephone. We'll start with gas and electric. Previous years, we had been heavy in using our gas and electric towards water and sewer funds. Chamber Marks, myself, trying to get this back into line. We balanced last year, we split it evenly amongst the three funds, water, sewer, and general fund. Last year, we budgeted 37,000 per fund. We did an analysis of how we're currently trending. Good news is we're burning less natural gas and using less electricity, probably natural gas. And we were able to move that down to $20,000 per line range, which is very good. Water and sewer stay stable for us. We are the town of Plattsburgh, we pay the rate. Telephone is the line which we like to see, and I have to defer that to the mayor and Chamber of Mars. They generate that number. So that's what we have there. The other item you'll see that, and it's always a hot ticket item under any of this contracted services, what are we subcontracting out? In the street administration, the contracted services actually is copier maintenance, both our copier in the office and also large format copier upstairs. So it's very expensive.
Wow, that.
Yep.
That's what it costs to
keep those running, yes.
all our crazy.
When you have a large format flyer.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
And actually, we own our large format plotter, whereas most places lease it. So it's actually cheaper for us because we bought it outright versus renting it on a monthly basis.
Okay.
But it's, as you could know, it's. In the past, it wasn't even split correctly either. You notice the 5-year average had down there $51. It was in the wrong line. It was split correctly. It's under a different area. So. Print copy, we do have to also pay per page, and so we do a lot of mailings or flyers. For instance, we do a street job, we do a flyer, the paper costs money, so a lot of printing, copying, and it goes out of our office. That knows that she sees them online. We do a lot of postings for every posting we do. We're doing a street job, we're handing posts out to people later. So it has. Any questions about any of the line in the street administration? Concerns? I know Councilman Moore had mentioned in the previous meeting about inflation, trying to take that into consideration. That's why I pointed out the fuel costs there. And then obviously we'll get into the maintenance portion of it. We'll talk a little bit more about fuel and where it is based on the analysis of what I see.
I just have one question for Mike. Like on the contract side, as I believe there wasn't any back pay involved, but
No, it's just,
so this is just the increase.
just the increase. That, and then also there's some longevity in there for certain employees. I think actually I this year I'm up for longevity. So that's probably something I paid.
So these numbers are probably pretty stable.
Yeah.
It's not big slow here and then next year's.
No.
entirely different. Okay.
And I think this is one more year in this contract last one.
No, we have another, I think it ends in 25. It ends in 25.
It's pretty-
We just renegotiated, so.
Okay. So yeah, that's what we got there. Okay, we'll move on to street maintenance. You can see payroll, pretty decent shape there. We did make the choice to cut our OT a little bit. Temporary payroll, we did cut that down also, temporary laborers. And what you see in there under temporary payroll, we hire 2 types of temps. One is I'm going to use the term skilled or experienced temp, which we'll call back a former maintenance supervisor. Typically, like for instance, on the Barter Street job, because we have our staff is full, we'll call them for a portion of the project if we want pipe inspection. Former maintenance supervisor, Tim Sutton came in for a month and a half for us. They do work at a much higher rate than a regular temporary, but they are another set of eyes and experience that we have on the job to make sure that goes in just like that quickly. So that's expensive temporary. Short period of time, like we said, month and a half. And then you get them out. Then you have the seasonal temps, which are the people that can do weed whacking, working at the beach, cleaning up downtown, which we'll talk more about that in a little bit, but those are the 2 different types of temps. So what we had there. Moving down, another item we want to point out is Yeah, obviously, street construction material supply, which is a big item, 33,000, that is your blacktop, that is your gravel, concrete, all those type of items. And then vehicle supplies, this is the other big item, this is your fuel, your antifreeze, lubricants. Again, we did a pretty heavy analysis, we're trending well, we kept it the same as it was last year. I do have the same words as Council Board does with fuel costs, we just don't know where they're going. It's been hanging around about $4.
Up, down, up, down.
Yeah, but it's, so we're doing okay, so we're gonna go with what we got. I don't dare raise it any, because I don't want to be too hoggish, but by the same right, I always think I have very little control over. That's why I also pointed out the asphalt. Asphalt is usually driven by the cost of petroleum products. This year, for some reason, I had not been hit with escalation clause by any of the people, so. And vehicle parts, that is just maintenance items for all our motor fleet. Technical special, technical special is signs, homes, small tools, department. Our favorite, 4430 contracted services. This is the expensive one, it has gone up substantially over the years. It's painting, crack sealing, and then stuff like vehicle radios, anything that we hire out. But the big increase has been, believe it or not, that painting that Council Lawrence asked about previously about Market Street.
Into the line.
Yeah, the epoxy coating, we have two types of paint. The county will come in and do the latex main line for us. And then the crosswalks, the arrows, parking stalls, all these symbols, all the specialty symbols are done in epoxy. Reason is they wear a lot better, we get several seasons out. That's why we're at that amount.
Right, so we better deal with epoxy pulls up a lot better.
Yeah.
So, you know, if it only lasts a year, you got it cheaper, but then you're.
Yeah, you'll notice we did quite a bit this year too, they definitely popped, you probably noticed it driving through the city, nothing was better, nice and smart, make that blacktop look good, so. Any questions about street maintenance? Moving on, just the account bond, particularly, so under the general fund portion, not only do we have street maintenance, but we also have snow and ice, which is our winter months, snow plowing, refuse and parks and beautification. So the next line is snow and ice. So this is our payroll is split out for winter months. And again, payroll changes in the year are due to just that wage increases due to the longevities of the contract. Keeping our overtime payroll the same this year. One item, again, that was always has a variability to it is street construction material supplies. That is our sand, our salt, and our winter mix asphalt. They did go up this year, as it always does. We also had to buy a little bit more. I think we budgeted 2,400 tons, 2,000 last year. Any questions about any of the lines and slides?
Well, just one thing, but it isn't germane to this, but we all stocked up on salt.
We have enough to get us through to the budget turned over. We have enough, but we're gonna need that 2,400 once the budget's approved. I mean, we're already locked in. We have to take it because I have to commit to it. So we're gonna have to find it somewhere, but we have enough to get us. We have plenty of sand, salt, and put on, and we have an adequate supply of salt.
I know if you get stuff buying some at spot price, in the winter, you can get.
Yeah, you can, we usually try to keep around, I'm gonna say we have 8 per ton right now. I'd like to have probably 1.5, I need to feel better with 1,200, but we should be fine.
I have a question on this topic. The mayor and I had discussed the possibility of setting up sidewalk plowing for sidewalk clearing for certain key streets in the city and perhaps incorporating that into this budget this year. Have we done anything with that yet, or are we still waiting for the council to make that move?
We have not, Mike and I have not talked about that yet, this year. It is something that we will end up talking about before this gets released. I know we only have a few more days. This has been a topic of conversation for many years, well before I got here, certainly. Again, not opposed to it. I think it's just a matter of, it's a financial concern and the potential insurance and legal concern that need to be addressed.
Yeah, those are the big ones. The other one is, I'm being quite honest here, is labor.
Yes.
You can look at our roster and look at the vacancies. I know the mayor and I had a conversation today about that. And it gets confusing. I actually have so many vacancies that, people coming and going at lower levels. Getting people to apply. I mean, I'll advertise for 2 positions and I'll be lucky if I get 1 applicant. So people are not wanting to work.
These are seasonal, right?
These are any position, full-time laborers.
Laborers, maintenance ones,
Yeah.
nobody's applying for, and they're athletes and
So that.
Well, if we're unable to, fulfill this request with our own ranks, I would think maybe contracting out that service would be an option for us. If we're going to spend money to do it, and it is going to cost money, let's not make any bones about that. I'd like to see it done next year, and if we have to use contracted labor to do those certain targeted streets, then let's do it. Why not? We have a lot of elderly people in our community here, and we claim to be a walkable city, but in the wintertime, we're not. So it's something we need to work on. I hope the rest of the council will consider this as an addition to this year's budget.
I agree with you on that, Mike.
Well, thank you, Jeff. There's 2 people so far. That's good to know. So maybe we can come up with something that that'll work for the city and for the citizens.
Mike, exactly where do you want this done? Where do you feel it needs to be done the most? You and Jeff are very adamant about getting this done. So where do you feel that it needs to be done the most? What is your line of thinking?
Well, I don't know, I can't speak for Council Kelly, but, it was sort of a pilot program to get started to see, what it involved versus jumping in there, with both feet. I know, is that what I know, I think Mike's talking about some of the more traveled areas. Yeah.
Yes, I am. And there are many places where the city already plows or already clears sidewalks in those areas. South Catherine Street's a good example. The Perry Bridge on South Catherine Street, for example, gets plowed or cleared by the city. And, if you got your equipment out there on the street, why can't you extend that another, 100 yards or something in each direction? Also, I guess on North Market Street, another heavily traveled part of the city by pedestrians. We plow some parts of North Market Street already, or we clear the sidewalks on some parts of North Market Street already. So why not clear more if we can? If we have the equipment out there already, why not put it to use? And then finally, I would say last but not least is Upper Cornelia Street, where we hear year after year tales of people trying to walk to the grocery store and discovering they have to walk over piles of snow sometimes, or walk in the street. And that's just not a healthy thing for us to continue to do, especially as our population continues to age. So it's something for us to consider. I hope we can come up with at least some funding to do that for next year.
Thank you.
Did that answer your question, Counselor Bond, about where you'd like to see, where this probably should be done? And there's other places too, I'm sure I don't know about. Maybe the US Oval's one where we already do some snow clearing and we could do more. Don't want to reinvent the wheel here, just want to expand the capabilities of our own crews, or else find, a contracted service that would do that for us.
That's good too.
And as far as I'm concerned, that could be a fixed amount. I hope I didn't interrupt there, did I?
No, you're fine.
No, you're fine.
As far as I'm concerned, that would be a fixed amount. Let's say $100,000. Okay, when we use up $100,000, then we're done. Or else we plan to do as much as we can do in a season with $100,000. That's not the final figure by any means, but I just throw that out there for your consideration.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
I've just had so many citizens come to me and say, "Hey, when's Plattsburgh going to start plowing the sidewalks? So, I'm getting too old. I can't do this anymore." And I feel for them.
And some people are like wondering, like, could there possibly be like a community service program that would help out with it too?
Yeah, I was gonna just say, I was just gonna call back up on that one, if there's a program, sign up for it. If heaven forbid, I'm one to say, okay, I don't know who qualifies, I never would be one to say that, but I don't know, some kind of program that.
Well, we tried that at one time, and it's to get volunteers, no one signed up.
Oh,
And then there was an interest or liability problem.
Oh, absolutely, that is,
People got, volunteers out there that could hurt their back, then they're gonna come back on us, so.
yeah.
I mean, it sounds like a good idea, but we didn't really have any takers size.
Or maybe an incentive program with homeowners.
Yeah. Any questions? Or you have more? You wanna continue?
No, I'm just waiting for this to run its course here. So,
Yeah.
if we could, all the council go, we've had this discussion before,
Yeah.
and just not really the forum for it, we can sit down and hash out the details of that. So I just think you guys, we can get you to the point. Anyone else set?
What are the contracted services for the snow and ice?
Kind of service, so as nominal amount, this is in case we get into a situation where we do downtown cleanup, or clean up in other parts of the city where I don't have enough trucks. So basically, it's hired trucks. So if we have to hire dump trucks. Currently, we run 4, 2 triaxles, 2 tandems, and then I have a double body trailer. But I help expedite snow removal, particularly the downtown corridor. We might, there have been times we've hired as many 3 additional trucks during heavy snow removal events. Last couple of years, they're pretty. I think I used to have about $10,000 in at one time, that's fine, but, yeah, that's what's working. Okay, on to refuse. Again, payroll is driven by, again, wages and what we have to pay the guys. Not a lot of overtime in the refuse portion of it. Never really see much need for it. Usually it's if we run late with the truck and can't get in or out of landfill. Vehicle supplies, that should fuel for the year. Vehicle parts, any maintenance parts. Moving down, the big ones. Fees for services, $190,000. That is your tipping fees in the landfill. Again, like any other thing we have in this budget, big number, it is subject to change. We won't know from Cook County landfills probably sometime in November what the actual tipping fees are. We are training well before we budgeted last year. Kind of kept it in those lines. Hopefully we should be, if we don't see a $5 ton increase, they haven't sprung anything like that us in the past, so that's where we're at. Any questions about the refuse? Any particular line in there you guys want to discuss? Moving on, parks and beautification. Payroll. Well, the parks and beautification, I guess I'll preface this by saying that some of this budget has been transferred over to us from rec complex. This was the CEO mayor, is it? So these numbers are a little bit larger. There's a couple lines I'm not versed into what they are, but I know what they are. But payroll, again, there's some temporary payroll in there that we picked up from that. A lot of parks, and this is one where you'll notice if you look at previous year was negative. The big one was this technical and special material supplies from parks. All the things that go into taking care of a park, bathroom bill, broken toilet, a lot of vandalism this year.
Oh, my God.
Tremendous amount of vandalism. So that's where those items go. You see, we're 15 to the negative. We doubled that, and we're gonna have to run with that and see how we turn with it. But that's been a problem in certain parts. I don't have a quick and easy answer for it. Obviously, we report vandalism to the PD. We have put up cameras, but they are very savvy. We had one group that actually took down the cameras on something. Yeah. So it's pretty fun. The other one again, our 4430 line contracted services and parks, and that's actually the quarter jobs throughout the city for the season. The ones that we have the beach, the ones that will put additional facilities out in the parks, and that is what that one is for. Any questions about any of the lines in parks and beautification?
I think you explained that pretty well.
Move on to water and sewer. Okay. No big changes in water and sewer. Really, like we start with the administration lines, like I spoke previously. Gas, electric, water, sewer bills, telephone bills, all driven by previous trends. Again, we're, like I said, able to budget less, particularly I think for natural gas. We did pretty well with our estimate, or high, I should say. The other one you'll see in there is a telephone that is a function of IT. Each telephone line, I believe, is depending on how you have the department that drives right to the cost. And that would be a question for Richard Mayor. Contracted services under here, typically that is maintenance. Again, copier and office equipment. Something that popped up, I'm looking at here, and I didn't point out is training. We do very heavy training across all three funds for our employees for different aspects, but it could be compliance-based entry, fall protection, it could be shoring, but that's what along with doing work, you have to make sure there's a certain number of contact hours with these guys. First aid, CPR, which actually you don't pay for that. Usually that is provided to us by the fire department. They help us out with that. Any questions about the water admin lines? Anything stick out that you'd like to discuss? Transmission distribution. This is the water pipes, stuff that's in the ground, your hydrants, valve, anything related to water. Payroll, again, is what it is. We do have a pretty sizable overtime payroll in there. Hopefully, we've got a lot of improvements over the past couple of years. Fortunately, you guys allowed us to put pipe in the ground, and anytime you do that, it definitely helps out the Lake Country Village area and all the stuff in the base that hoping some big difference here in the future, but fewer water breaks throughout the city. technical special equipment. Put a couple lines here, 2,400 lines, those are, things like listening devices, water working tools, any specialty items there, as far as tools go. You will see sheet construction material and supplies. Believe it or not, you charge asphalt and aggregate materials against water work because it did roll repair, water break, places with that. Technical and special material also includes hydrants, valves, fittings, hydrant parts. I shouldn't say that well. Not valves and fittings, but hydrants and heaters, I should say. Buildings and grounds, again, this is a component of our facility itself. This is to pay the bills for taking care of the building, that we work out of. That pretty substantially. All I got in that, is there any specific question, any specific line on here? Sewer administration, like the other administration line, pretty stable. The payroll is what it is, everything else is split evenly between the 3 funds. Don't have much to add there. Sanitary sewer. And the payroll is stable. What we have year to year is wage increases in contracts. Overtime is always a pretty healthy overtime budget in there, depending on what we get into. Usually it's a sewer backup or a sewer rate. We might incur some overtime, for instance, this supply project we're going on. If we have to spend some time with the contractor working to take care of our stuff, that would be a instance where we might do some sewer overtime. I think this weekend we had a minor block, we had dispatch person before that, I think over 10 hours before. In this category. Capital outlay, I'll point that out to you, the 3,000 line. That will be typically it's usually like a sewer cleaning nozzle or a maintenance item that needs to be replaced as a routine replacement. A larger ticket item. We put something in there currently. Everything is in pretty decent shape, but we need to keep something in there as a placeholder. Contracted services, I'll point this one out to you. This is one where we had to, for instance, our sewer camera had to be sent away to get repaired, had to actually go to Rochester. The service people, it was in Albany is no longer, so that's where that can come into play, is servicing something of that nature. With a contract out. Any questions about anything on sanitary sewer? Any questions on anything?
I'm very good about it.
Okay.
Thanks, sir. Hey, appreciate it, John. If you don't mind, fill in the gap.
Fill in the gap. And
Oh, God, I'm ready to finish.
Everyone's disappointed. I will start with water. Which is on your sheets, I think it's a fund floor. The sheets that on the left column have fund floor. Okay, in order to get to the components of the water fund that I'm responsible for, you need to go to what's called source of supply.
Okay, where is that?
It's on the bottom of that front page. Source of supply. It's the second category up from the bottom. Source of supply. It's on that. Yeah, John. Thanks.
Two down.
Right, we're gonna start here.
Okay.
There's a source of supply.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So on a source of supply, pretty much everything's similar to what it was last year. Some of our payroll costs are coded to source of supply. Please see the regular payroll amounts. Some of the chemicals are purchased out of social supply, in particular the copper sulfate, which is for algae control in the reservoirs. Other than that, there's just a few relatively minor costs that come out of that fund. But basically, it's the same as it was last year. If we move down, probably on your next page, title purification.
Starts at the top, it starts at the bottom, it starts at the bottom. Yeah, yep.
That's where the bulk of our costs are, would be drinking water system. The remainder of regular payroll is under that line item. That's where our overtime is budgeted. Pretty much it's the same as last year with the exception of the 2,400 account, which is technical and special equipment, and we added some money in there for a lawnmower, and the lawnmower is pretty much seen better days there, so compared to last year's budget, there's an additional $12,000, total $23,000. You move down to 4331, which is chemicals. You'll see we budgeted maybe another almost $20,000 due to increased chemical costs. So that's up to $205,000. The chemicals there are PCH, sodium hydrochloride, and our fluoride addition. Other than that, so those are basically the two water filtration plant components of the water fund. So basically they're the same as last year with those exceptions. Any questions on drinking water? If not, we'll move back to the sewer fund, which are the sheets that are on your left-hand column. It's got 5 on it. Good. Make sure I'm in the right place. So fund. And we're gonna start with work expense. Which is almost not your second page. The water resource recovery facility. Yeah, this is pretty much the same as last year. I'll just give you a highlights real quick of what's changed. We actually removed almost $3,000 from the 2,100 account, which was budgeted last year for a purchase of new computer equipment. We don't need to do that this year. But under the 2,400 account, we do need to budget for infrared inspections of the motor control centers, which is now a requirement, annual requirement under the NFPA. Under the aeration line items, we've increased the chemical costs under 4331 because of the increased cost of sodium hypochlorite, gone from about $1.19 a gallon to $2.47 a gallon. And our aluminum sulfate has gone from $593 a ton to $658 a ton. So you see an increase there. Odor control, we've had an increase that somewhat due, again, that's due to sodium hypochlorite costs. And you'll see that again under the chlorination line items. The big change, the big increase is under sludge disposal. And that is titled work dewatering sludge. The word code, if you're trying to look at it that way, is 58130151. And under contracted services, which is where we contract for our sludge hauling and our tip fees at our disposal sites. We've increased that line item from $620,000 to $750,000. And those are for known increases to date. We do have a contract with one of the disposal sites, second disposal site, we're kind of at the mercy of what they're charging everyone else, so hopefully their costs will stay somewhat stable for now. But we've heard me talk in the past that we're getting either regulated or priced out of sending our sludge to the places where we're going now, so. In the next month or so, we should be finished with our organics management study. And have a better feel for the direction that we think we might want to go for the next 30 years. Which is probably gonna be away from landfilling, and might be away from beneficial use in general. So, do you have any specific questions on line items in there? Other than the ones I mentioned, they're mostly pretty much the same.
The common theme in this year's budget.
Uh,
Yeah, some of it is like. Lots of increases due to cost of doing business, regulatory constraints, chemical needs and constraints and increases in that. Payroll is pretty much leveled out with the negotiation of the core contracts that we completed over the last couple of years. But still, the cost of doing business, like I said before, we are not immune to the impact of cost of doing business. And then on top of that, we've got limited amounts of our ability to raise revenues through tax caps, all other things that we have to adhere to, so.
It's not like being at home, you can't rob Peter to pay Paul. You know.
I should mention one thing about the chief plant operator of the wastewater plant has gone to another job. Right now, we're trying to keep that ship afloat. Things seem to be pretty stable, but we've advertised that position, gotten very little response. There are very few, what are called 4A certified operators, up in this area or even further south of here, like in the capital district. So in addition to those advertisements that we've done for a replacement person, and those have been statewide and nationally. I also put out a request for proposals for contractor services to do it by contract operation company. And those should be submitted in a couple of weeks. So we'll know a little bit more about whether or not there are any private companies that are interested in providing some management services. So depending on what we find there, we may need to talk a little bit more about either the payroll number or the contracted services number. So, but right now I don't have any concrete information for it. Thank you.
Thanks, folks. The next one is tomorrow, I believe. We got public safety tomorrow. And then finance and CDO is on Thursday.
You did.
You're done now.
Okay.
Tomorrow.
You can see where I've been all that. Month and a half, next week in this budget, so I do appreciate it, folks, and if you guys have any comments, of course, the considerations will be discussed, and we'll do our best to add them or make some adjustments to the budget, or even to operations for the next year to accommodate some of these requests. Pretty close, I'm still chipping away at about a $300,000 deficit right now. I'll continue to work with these folks, continue to work with you all to make up that gap. Pretty confident we can find that, but chipping away, how it goes. All right, thank you so much, and see you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.